Are you frustrated with your current Mario Kart experience? Leading the pack in first place, but then a spiny shell comes to ruin your day. Didn't have a star when lightning struck, then you get run over while you're down on your luck. Want a racer based on skill and not controlled by RNG's will? Well, look no further than F-Zero! The high-octane, adrenaline-filled racer you've only heard of through Smash. Bored and tired of 200cc? F-Zero's got all the speed you need. Doing anti-gravity before it was cool, you'll put your lame Mario Kart friends in school. They better not fall off the track, cause Lakitu ain't coming to bring them back. No items, no RNG, no BS. F-Zero, where only the best racers win. I should probably make this clear. I love Mario Kart. It's definitely one of the best racing games out there, and was a big part of my own and many others' childhoods. Mario Kart Wii stands where you at. With its simple controls, colorful and unique cast of characters, and fun items, not to mention that it features Mr. Video Game himself, it's no surprise that it's super popular. And with the Booster Course Pass breathing new life into Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, along with all the balance updates, there's no shortage of new content to enjoy. But as any longtime Mario Kart player is all too familiar with, the outcomes of races can be heavily influenced by luck, sometimes more so than driving skill. Items are a big part of what makes Mario Kart fun, but also a big reason why it can be so frustrating, especially with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, where winning can sometimes feel like it's determined by who got the bullet bill or star when lightning struck, and not who drove the best. But in F-Zero, it's all about driving, and each race comes down to how well you can handle your machine at such insane speeds. Unfortunately, F-Zero is clearly nowhere near as well known or as widely played as Mario Kart. Most people only know the franchise due to Captain Falcon's appearances in Super Smash Bros. Games, which really is a shame because F-Zero, especially X and GX, is an absolute thrill to play, and I genuinely believe these games deserve way more attention, both from players and from Nintendo themselves. So if you've been getting burnt out on Mario Kart as of late, or are just looking for a challenging racing game that seriously tests your skills and reflexes, I'm here to try and convince you to give F-Zero a shot. But first, I think it'd be appropriate to give a quick rundown on the history of the F-Zero franchise and how it's stacked up against Mario Kart over the years. Released as a launch title for the Super Famicom on November 21st, 1990, and for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System on August 23rd, 1991, F-Zero was considered a pivotal game in the racing genre for ushering in a whole new level of speed and challenge, as well as its use of the SNES's Mode 7 graphics. Mode 7 was a special feature on the Super Famicom and SNES that allowed backgrounds to be scaled and rotated in a way that created the illusion of a 3D environment, thus bringing a more realistic feel to the game. This innovation led to F-Zero being a hit with critics and players alike, and the game sold a total of 2.85 million copies. Although F-Zero was a great success, these sales numbers would be blown out of the water with the release of Super Mario Kart in 1992. Also featuring Mode 7 graphics, it sold a total of 8.76 million copies, becoming the fourth best-selling SNES game of all time. Not too surprising, considering how much of a gaming icon Mario had been since 1985. Mario Kart has only continued to grow in popularity since then, with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe selling a whopping 50 million copies in total, becoming the best-selling Nintendo Switch game. Unfortunately for F-Zero, the first game would be the best the series would ever sell, and it would end up being left in the dust by Mario Kart. We haven't seen a new F-Zero since F-Zero Climax in 2004, and it wasn't really much of a climax for the series considering that it sold so poorly that it never released outside of Japan. I mean, let's be honest here, a big reason for Mario Kart's success is its accessibility and ease of play for people of all ages and demographics, even those who have never picked up a video game before. Compared to F-Zero, Mario Kart games tend to have very simple controls and track design, and items, while they do add a fun layer of strategy and planning to the game, they also do make it so that the best driver doesn't necessarily always win. That's part of the appeal to casual players, I feel. It's more comforting for a newcomer to pick up Mario Kart, as items can help them bridge the gap in driving skill. F-Zero, on the other hand, is more of a hardcore racer. Like in real race car driving, it's a test of pure reflexes and technical driving capabilities. From here on out, I'm primarily going to be talking about F-Zero X and GX, since those games really capture what the series is all about and perfected the series gameplay. One of the first things a new player will notice when picking up an F-Zero game is how sensitive the game's controls are. New players will have a hard time controlling their machines at first, especially at high speeds. Considering your machine can reach speeds orders of magnitude faster than anything you'll ever see in Mario Kart, on modern Mario Kart that is, this was definitely on purpose. You'll want to make small adjustments to your machine's direction by tilting the stick very lightly. It takes getting used to, but pretty soon it'll feel quite natural for the kind of racing game that it is. Another thing you'll notice is the energy meter in the top right corner of the screen. Starting from the second lap onwards, you'll be able to perform a speed boost at the touch of a button, but it'll cost you some of that energy. This right here is the key to winning in F-Zero. You may think that if you run out of energy, that simply means you won't be able to boost anymore until you refill your energy gauge. You amateur! You buffoon! You absolute dingus! You better not be boosting all willy-nilly, because if your machine runs out of energy, your machine will explode. Hear that? Explode! And no, you don't respawn or anything and get to keep going. This means that you automatically lose the race and have to start over. But Lakitu or someone else will save me. Right. Wrong! You die. You lose. Get good, scrub. And you also have limited lives. If you lose them all, you've got to start the Grand Prix all over from the beginning. Good thing there are strips throughout the track that refill your energy. While we're on the topic of, well, dying and how the Grim Reaper inches ever closer to our doorstep with each passing nanosecond, how about the combat mechanics? That's right, although there are no items, you can still attack other races by either slamming them or Beyblading them. Side attacks are great for knocking out racers right next to you, while spin attacks work better for racers behind or in front of you. It takes a lot of precision to be able to knock out other racers consistently, so I wouldn't recommend doing this too much until you've gotten a good grip on the basic controls, unless you enjoy plummeting to your death over and over again. I mean, hey, to each their own. Obviously, the possibility of having to start a race or even an entire Grand Prix all over again makes F-Zero far more difficult than Mario Kart, but I assure you, the feeling of chaining boosts together to reach ridiculous speeds and winning a race by like 10 milliseconds.
Oh my god. That is better than sex.
Seriously, it's so satisfying and well worth the efforts. What's so refreshing about F-Zero is that whether you win or lose is almost entirely in your hands. Your skill is pretty much the only thing that really matters. And although the game is brutal when you're first learning it, the feeling of reward and satisfaction that comes from mastering the controls, immersing myself in the game's deep driving mechanics, the tracks, the adrenaline-pumped racing, and the combat is something that almost no other game has been able to match for me. It has the perfect build-up and release of tension as you fight to stay on the track while also managing your energy, waiting for the right moment to boost or attack your foes, then all of that culminating in crossing the finish line in first place. It's also made all the sweeter when the announcer gasses you up for your win. And even when you finish all of the base tracks, F-Zero X had an expansion kit developed for it that added 2 new cups with some insanely challenging tracks, a custom track editor, and even the ability to create your own machine, the latter of which was greatly expanded upon in F-Zero GX. Seriously, I feel like F-Zero X and GX are packing pretty much anything a racing game aficionado could ever want. And for a racing game, F-Zero has quite a unique cast of characters from humans to all sorts of different alien races, with each having a unique backstory and motivations for competing in F-Zero races, resulting in surprisingly deep lore for a game of its kind. It's cool that Nintendo went the extra mile with so many fleshed out characters in a game where story isn't really the main focus. So, with all that going for it and the very positive reception of the series from average gamers and critics alike, why haven't we seen a new F-Zero in nearly 20 years? Well, as I said before, despite good reviews, the series has just never been able to compete with Mario Kart in terms of sales. Super Mario Kart sold about 3 times as many copies as the first F-Zero did, and Mario Kart 64 sold like 8 times as many copies as F-Zero X. F-Zero GX sold like 1.5 million, while Mario Kart Double Dash became the best-selling GameCube game of all time, right behind Super Smash Bros. Melee. F-Zero GP Legend sold pitifully, and F-Zero Climax, once again, did so horribly that it was never released outside of Japan. Guess you could call that a ruined climax.
Young man, kill yourself!
So I guess eventually Nintendo thought that people didn't really like F-Zero that much anymore and just decided to stick with Mario Kart. Money talks, they say, and money is the universal language all corporations speak. And I guess at first glance the idea of Mario racing against all his iconic friends and foes is a lot more appealing to the general populace. F-Zero, despite most people not knowing what they're missing, does look kinda generic by comparison. You know, just looking at the box art, Mario Kart has a big cast of colorful, vibrant characters, and F-Zero box art is just generic looking, it's just cars. So I guess on F-Zero GX's cover art you can see Captain Falcon in the background with a few other racers, so that one I guess would do a little bit better in catching people's attention. Also, even though I and many others find the steep difficulty a refreshing change of pace, it was definitely a sour spot for some players. And while I'd tell those people to again, grow a pair and get good, it can't be denied that Mario Kart is a lot more beginner friendly than F-Zero. For players with certain disabilities, I imagine F-Zero will be next to impossible for them to ever really get a handle on. But that doesn't mean people haven't been trying to get this series noticed again. Fans have asked Nintendo many times over the years what happened to the franchise, only to most of the time be met with a vague, generic, corporate speak answer about how they make games and stuff. Even the producer for F-Zero GX, Toshihiro Nagoshi, has said in the past that he's very much open to making a new F-Zero game should Nintendo be interested. But Nintendo doesn't really seem to want to jump on it. One reason they gave is that they feel they've pushed the series to its absolute limit with GX, and they have no idea how to evolve the series further. And I honestly feel like that's a cop-out. They don't really need to evolve the series any further. Fans just really want a new game already. I'm pretty sure most of us would be happy if they just ported F-Zero GX to the Switch with HD graphics, online racing, and possibly a custom track editor like in the F-Zero X expansion pack. We definitely don't need a massive overhaul of the game's mechanics or anything like that. Anyways, despite Nintendo of Japan's reluctance, several other studios have made spiritual successors to F-Zero, with some help from Nintendo of Europe. Some of them, such as Redout and Fast RMX, the latter of which was a Switch launch title, saw a good deal of success. One studio in particular, Chuhai Labs, headed by former Nintendo programmer Giles Goddard, even has a prototype for a new F-Zero with realistic physics that could push the series beyond its limits, just as Nintendo seems to want. But because of legal issues surrounding the IP, it hasn't been released to the public. I'd recommend watching Did You Know Gaming's video on the topic, linked in the description below. But all in all, Nintendo is fooling themselves big time if they think there's no demand for more F-Zero. Some of the titles I've mentioned earlier are proof that there's plenty of demand for intense, high skill, high intensity, hardcore racing games, especially one as iconic as F-Zero. I'd say that a new game has a better chance of success than ever given all the free advertising Captain Falcon has done for the series in Smash. And there's some evidence that it wouldn't be too much of a risk for Nintendo to try again. Giles Goddard did say that fully realizing his prototype would probably cost less than $1 million. Well, that's a ton of money to commoners like you and me. That's chump change for a game company as massive as Nintendo. With such a low cost and the prototype already done, there doesn't seem to be much financial risk to Nintendo, even if the game flops in terms of sales. They could even call up Toshihiro Nagoshi to help too. Though the character designer for Captain Falcon, Takaya Imamura, apparently did say that making a new F-Zero would, quote, cost a fortune. So I don't know, maybe there's more to this issue than meets the eye. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for F-Zero XXX in the year 2069, if you're getting sick of being BS'd in Mario Kart and are looking for a racer that will give you a fun and fair challenge, give the F-Zero franchise a go. As for which one you should try first, I personally think that GX is a little bit easier than X, due to the controls being a little bit tighter. Plus the graphics have not aged too well on F-Zero X. The developers wanted to make sure a game requiring such high precision ran at a constant 60 FPS without fail, so they had to compromise on the graphical detail. But if you're running weaker hardware, it should still be able to run F-Zero X without too much issue. But yeah, that's all for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe if you did, and I'll see you in the next video. Yeah, I know about F-Zero 99 and I don't want to talk about it. I'm disappointed. Like, the second I saw that, like, on the direct, I I clicked off of it immediately. I was so pissed off. I like 20 almost 20 years for this. Like I can't like I hear good things about it. People say it's good, so I guess I'll give it a chance. And you know, it's nice that F-Zero's getting some attention again after so long, but like just remaster F-Zero GX already, Nintendo. Like we don't even need a new game, just more of like serious F-Zero for once. I'll probably make a video about F-Zero 99 like in the near future or something. Like, I don't know, if you guys want to see more F-Zero stuff, I guess like let me know in the comments and stuff. But other than that, yeah, have a good day. See ya.